This is College Football 26 Dynasty with conferences reorganized by color. So this is my Christmas special because I won't be doing a video tomorrow. So I originally wanted to do red versus green, but there's not that many green teams and there is a ton of red and blue teams. So we're just going to go with a full color split and go through each of the conferences here. So American is our green conference. The ACC is our blue only conference. You'll see there's a couple different red and a couple different blue. This is the blue and other color. So it's either white or black or gray as a secondary color, but blue as the only main color. The Big Ten is the red as the main color. And again, the same kind of thing, white or black or something else as the secondary color. The Big 12 is a blue and red conference, red and blue, whichever you want to say. The Conference USA is a purple conference with two brown teams slipped in there because there's nowhere else to put the brown teams. And we were going to originally have them as independents, but then there was only 7 purple teams, so we needed to get over the 8 threshold. This is a blue and yellow conference. Gold and yellow are interchangeable in this because we can't be separating gold and yellow with how we've got this set up. The Mountain West is red and yellow or a red adjacent color and yellow. I don't know if Texas State would technically be brown. I guess it's kind of almost brown and yellow, but I thought that they fit pretty well with they're pretty close to the same colors as Florida State. And I guess kind of Minnesota. Minnesota is definitely more red, but pretty close to Florida State and Boston College, I guess. These teams are pretty close. So they fall in the red and yellow conference. This is kind of off red or black as a primary color, as a difference between this and the Big Ten. I mean, there's some that are kind of straight up red in here, but we just needed to kind of split the red up. So that's kind of where we decided. If they didn't look as red as the teams that are in the Big Ten, they ended up in the Pac-12. It might be an easier path for teams like Oklahoma and Indiana because they missed Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, but that's how we ended up separating it. So this is another red conference. This is the orange conference. Now, you might have another primary color, but if you had orange in there, you made it into this conference. The one school that didn't make it in here that it does have some orange is Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech fits much more with these colors than it does with these colors. These are more bright oranges, so that's why we decided to keep Virginia Tech in the red and yellow conference, even though they're not really red or yellow. The Sun Belt is black and yellow. This is easy. Black and yellow, black or gold, so they all work together. So those are our conference setups. So we're going with Wyoming because it's closest to kind of the colors that I'm wearing here. We're going to sim 3 seasons, do the best conference, best team, all the things that we usually do. Make sure you like and subscribe before we get going, and let's go to the first CFP poll. Not a great start for Wyoming, but we did make it to the Battle of the Bronze Boot, so maybe I can save my job here. I kind of was deciding between them and Western Michigan, and maybe I should have chosen the other one because I think I'm going to get fired here. Okay, let's look at what's going on here. So Ohio State, this is pretty impressive because this red conference is really strong. They beat Texas non-conference. They beat Alabama in conference, Utah in conference. They beat Georgia in conference. They've got a non-conference game against Penn State and a non-conference game against Michigan State. So a crazy non-conference schedule that included Purdue, I guess, but Texas, Penn State, and Michigan. They only did 3 non-conference games. Yeah, I guess I didn't turn that off. But they have a crazy in-conference schedule as well, playing multiple top 25 teams. Alabama definitely started this season, but they have not fared so well in that conference. That speaks to the strength of that conference. So Ohio State leading is very good. Illinois gets a little bit of an easier conference, although they are playing in the same conference as Texas. So I wonder if they've played them. No, okay. But that's the power of the realignment there. Georgia's in the top 25. Oregon is definitely an easier conference with the green conference. Florida was going to be in the green conference, but they moved to the orange conference because technically I don't think that they have green as one of their main colors. It's just the color of the gator. Blue and orange are their main colors, so they went to the orange conference. Iowa State up there, that's pretty interesting. Louisville up there. UNLV as a classic G5 team doing pretty well in the Big Ten, which is the red conference. Their only loss against Texas Tech so far, and they have a big matchup with Louisville later on the season, but they definitely got an easier schedule in that conference, and they don't have a major out-of-conference games because their rivalries and previous games are against non-power teams. So that is pretty good. UNLV could make a run. Ole Miss is also up there. North Carolina, you don't really see that good in the first season, so that's pretty good. Vanderbilt is also up there in the black and yellow conference. I think they're their top team out of the black and yellow conference. Yeah, that might be the weakest conference in our sim. Let's take a look at the purple conference because I didn't see too many teams in our conference up towards the top. Kansas State and LSU, okay, I did see those two teams. But yeah, TCU struggling, Western Michigan struggling, Wyoming struggling. I'm probably going to get fired. East Carolina struggling, and they're all playing in. None of the teams are good. None of the teams are good playing. Maybe they just had tough non-conference games for the top teams, but none of the teams are good. Washington just lost to Wyoming. That is rough. After 3 straight buys. I hate when you change the conferences because the buys are stupid. All right, let's go to the conference championship games and see what the bracket might look like. Our blue conference championship is Penn State versus BYU. Not necessarily super surprising there with the teams that we have in the all blue conference. Oregon and Miami, that was kind of the most predictable one. Florida was probably going to be a part of that, but Miami, who could have been a part of the orange conference, but we needed some more strength in the green conference, takes the spot there. Okay, so our red and blue conference, probably not going to make it in. The all-red conference, so Ohio State did end up losing some games towards the end of the season. This is a rematch, or Ohio State won in the beginning part of the season. Our conference is not going to get anybody in from the purple/brown conference. Michigan is in regardless of win, but a win probably puts them in a first-round bye. Iowa State could be the number 1 team in the country with a win over USC. A&M probably needs to win to get in, which is interesting because they're 12-0 in a not weak conference. So interesting that they are struggling to get in there. The orange conference is pretty good. If Auburn wins, probably have Iowa State as our number 1 team in the country. And the black and yellow conference is Wake versus Vanderbilt in the championship game. So very interesting. Okay, let's go to the bracket. I think last video or 2 videos ago, we saw Austin Simmons win the Heisman Trophy. Now we see Trinidad Chambliss win the Heisman Trophy. I guess it's because Trinidad Chambliss graduated in the other one. But anyway, that's the first time I've seen Trinidad Chambliss win the Heisman out of the red and blue conference. Let's see what the CFP bracket is looking like. Okay, so we get a rematch of the green championship game in the first round. Iowa State did end up winning, but they don't get the number 1 overall seed. We got UNLV and Houston both in the first round, which UNLV and Houston both came out of the red conference, which included Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama and Texas Tech. No, Texas Tech was in the other one. No, I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that all those teams are from the same conference, which is pretty incredible that they all made it. Interesting. So we get the orange conference gets an automatic bye. The red and yellow conference gets an automatic qualifier. The blue and yellow conference gets an automatic qualifier. The green conference gets an automatic qualifier. And the red conference gets an automatic qualifier. UNLV versus Michigan in the first round. Winner takes on Georgia in the Cotton Bowl. Penn State and Tennessee in the first round. Winner takes on Florida in the Sugar Bowl. So UNLV and Georgia would be a conference matchup. Tennessee and Florida would be a conference matchup. I think Houston and Texas Tech would be a conference matchup if Houston can get past Auburn. Auburn was in the Orange Conference Championship game against Florida. And then, of course, Oregon and Miami is a conference matchup in the first round. And there's nobody else from the red and yellow conference that made it, so Iowa State will not have a conference matchup. Let's double check what conference Texas Tech is from, because I want to say that they're in the Big Ten. They are in the Big Ten. So Texas Tech, Georgia, Houston, and UNLV are the teams that made it out of the Big Ten in a conference that included Louisville, Ohio State, Alabama. All those teams were like Louisville, Ohio State, and Alabama all missed out while UNLV and Houston and Texas Tech's not that surprising, but Houston and UNLV made it over them in the first year. Okay, so Miami gets back-to-back victories over Oregon in the Mario Cristobal Bowl. They move on. They'll take on number 2 Iowa State in the second round. Houston can't get past Auburn in the first round. Auburn will take on Texas Tech. We don't get the conference matchup there. UNLV loses to Michigan. They'll take on Georgia in the second round. We don't get the conference matchup there. Penn State beats Tennessee. They'll go on to the Sugar Bowl to face Florida. We don't get the conference matchup there. So we have 3 potential conference matchups. None of them happen in the second round. We only get 1 conference matchup in the first round with the Oregon and Miami. We could see a conference matchup between Auburn and Florida later on, or between Georgia and Texas Tech. Other than that, there's no other same conference teams left. All right, Miami's making a bit of a destiny run here with another win. They beat Iowa State. Disappointing. I wanted to see Iowa State get some wins here, but they beat them by 2 touchdowns. They will take on Texas Tech in the Fiesta Bowl after Texas Tech gets past Auburn pretty easily. Penn State gets a big upset. Number 9 takes down number 1. They will take on the other upset. So only Texas Tech was the only highest seed that won in the second round. Penn State was the 9 seed. Michigan was the 5 seed. They both win. They'll face off in the Peach Bowl. So it's the blue and yellow conference versus the all blue conference, the red conference versus the green conference. So we get our Christmas matchup. We do get our Christmas matchup. That's at least what we're looking for. We're looking for red and green conference. Any of the red teams versus the green conference in the national championship. We at least get in the semifinal, but by the end of this video, we want at least one Christmas national championship. So red is victorious in our first Christmas Bowl with Texas Tech getting past Miami in the Fiesta Bowl, Christmas in the desert, as we like to call it. They get past Miami. They keep Miami away from the home game in the national championship. Texas Tech will actually face Michigan, who's 16-0 currently. I've never seen a 17-0 season in CFB 26. So we could very well see our first CFB 26 17-0 season if Michigan can get past Texas Tech in the national championship. Access denied. The Christmas Bowl champion Texas Tech gets the win in Miami, beating Michigan 35-30, denying the 17-0 season. Texas Tech leads the red conference to the best conference lead in the first season. They take control of the best team lead as well. I think that it's going to be really hard to beat the red conference for best conference just based on the talent they have in that conference and the fact that they had 2 underdog teams, Houston and UNLV, make it in the first season. Oh yeah, I'm for sure getting fired this Christmas. We're 1-8 going into the last, another battle for the bronze boot. I don't remember if we won. I didn't check if we won last season, but let's see what the top 25 looks like. Okay, so Ohio State is back on top of the country. They were last season when we checked in. They ended up losing a couple games to end the season. They didn't make the playoffs, so we'll see if they can turn that around. This is our defending national champion, Texas Tech. They have 1 loss so far, and it was to Ohio State. Okay, and they lost to Ohio State last season as well, so maybe a good omen. They have a pretty easy rest of their schedule to close out the season, so we should be seeing them back in the college football playoff, probably back in the Big Ten championship game. USC from the red and yellow conference is up towards the top. We saw Iowa State come out of that conference last season, but we've got USC coming up there. We've got LSU out of the purple conference, our conference. We didn't have anybody out of our conference last year. Pitt from the blue and yellow conference, Michigan from the blue and yellow conference. So there's a little bit of a rivalry going on there. Oregon is our only green team up towards the top. We, again, want to get a red and green national championship. Let's see what Oregon has left. They have 2 games left. Marshall and North Texas. So they should be able to find their way to the conference championship game, probably against Miami, I think is what that conference is basically set up to do. But nobody's in the top 25 from that conference. We have Houston back in the top 25. East Carolina out of our conference back in the top 25 with a matchup against number 5 LSU next week. They're currently undefeated. They've beat a top 25 team. They have the matchup against LSU, Kansas State, and Washington. So if they can run the table here, we could see East Carolina coming out of the Purple Conference in the college football playoff. Anybody else that's super surprising? Notre Dame from the blue and yellow conference, which you didn't really see last year. A&M was also undefeated last year and missed out. Something about this Pac-12 conference is not necessarily adding up for me because they have some good teams towards the top. So I'm not sure why they have 2 undefeated teams that are not in the top 20 or not in the top 12. I'm curious about the Purple Conference because we're much better than we were last season. So yeah, East Carolina, I'm kind of curious. We already looked at their schedule, but so they've had a pretty easy schedule so far. They did crush Wyoming, so that's part of the reason I'm getting fired on Christmas. But LSU, who did they lose to out of conference? Clemson, who we haven't really heard from too much out of the Orange Conference. So, interesting. Kansas State and Washington have both lost in conference, probably to LSU. Washington just lost to LSU. Okay, so LSU is by far the class of the conference, but East Carolina has a chance to run through the other ranked teams in the conference and fight their way up to the top. So we'll see what that looks like when we go to the conference championships. Fired on Christmas. I'm going to need to find a new job. Hopefully Central Michigan is open, or Western Michigan is open, I'm sorry, so that I can match this. I guess Central Michigan would work too. So I want to look for the red and yellow conference or to go to Western Michigan so I can match. But I got fired on Christmas. This fucking sucks. My kids are getting coal in their stockings. Well, actually, coal's too expensive. They're going to get newspaper in their stockings. But we have conference championship games to worry about. Okay, so East Carolina, it looks like they did end up losing to LSU, but they beat well, maybe not. Actually, let's take a look. Because they have one loss. LSU has one loss. So who did East Carolina beat? East Carolina has beaten LSU. They lost to Washington in the last game of the season. Otherwise, they would probably be a shoo-in. Now they need to win the conference championship game against LSU to make sure that they're in. That's probably winner in, loser out for the Purple Conference, with Washington on the outside looking in between the teams at number 11, probably in either way because they don't have the additional game. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in this conference championship game. East Carolina, again, already got the win against LSU. Okay, our red conference champion, our secondary red conference champion, I don't think that Oklahoma is going to be able to get in, so that's a little bit of a bummer. USC, number 1 in the country, they're in regardless. Maryland is probably in with a win, I think, for our Purple Conference, because I'm really rooting for East Carolina. We want USC to win that. Both blue and yellow teams are in. Ole Miss is out. Oregon needs some help to get in, and we actually really need Oregon to get in because we want our red and green national championship. They're 12-0, so they probably need some help. And it probably is better for Oregon for East Carolina to lose, to be completely honest. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Florida and Clemson both are in regardless, I think, depending on what happens. Maybe. Should be in. We'll see what happens. Oregon definitely wants Maryland to lose. Okay, our red conference championship, Ohio State's going to make it in this season. Texas Tech is our defending national champion. They're from the red conference. So they're in, probably with a first-round bye with the win, and then we're not going to get anybody out of our all-blue conference this year. Let's look at the top 25, see what we're missing. Okay, so we knew about Washington at number 11. We also have Houston at 13 on the outside looking in. Houston could be looking at 2 straight college football playoff appearances. Alabama is going to miss out yet again. Tennessee's going to make another one. Georgia's going to make another one. Okay, so we have a pretty similar... Clemson is a new one, but we have a pretty similar thing layout to last season. Really, what we're paying attention to is East Carolina and Oregon, if either of them can make it, or both of them. We'll see what the bracket looks like. Damon Williams transferred away from Washington. They're probably in the college football playoff. He goes to Oklahoma, wins the Heisman, but Oklahoma's probably not in the college football playoff. It's a crazy world out there, folks. It's a crazy world out there. Let's see what my job offers are, see if I can get my job back for Christmas. Okay, so... we did talk about Central Michigan. There is no head coaching job out there for me. I mean, if we're being honest, the best job here is the Iowa State defensive coordinator. That's what I'm going to take. It was not meant to be in Wyoming for me. So I'm going to go where I can rebuild my career as a defensive coordinator at Iowa State and maybe get back to where I want to be. It's a sad life. I'm going to be drinking this Christmas. What's the bracket look like? East Carolina makes it in. All 3 of the purple teams made it in. So East Carolina lost in the conference championship game. They still make it in. Washington didn't play in a conference championship game. They make it in. Clemson made it in. Tennessee made it in. Clemson made it in after losing their conference championship game. Okay, let's look at the top 25 before we get really into the bracket because I'm curious. Oregon won. They're 13-0. And they don't make it in the conference championship. They don't make it into the college football playoffs. So we don't get our red and green. We're not going to get our red and green game this year. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really necessarily agree that East Carolina should have made it in after losing their last 2 games just because they got a win over LSU. Oregon, I think, actually has a really weak schedule, though. Yeah, they didn't play any ranked teams the entire season. Even in the conference championship game, they didn't play a ranked team. So they're going to Myrtle Beach. All right, so we don't get our red and green this time. We might not end up getting it because the red and green conference is the green conference is pretty weak. So we might not end up getting our championship. We got at least last year Texas Tech versus Miami. Texas Tech is number 1 going into this season. as our defending champion. So they are in the lead for best team and best conference. There's 3 teams from the main red conference, Texas Tech, Ohio State, and Georgia, that are in. USC is from the red and yellow conference. They're undefeated. Pitt is from the blue and yellow conference. They're undefeated. Michigan's from the blue and yellow conference, last year's runner-up. They take on East Carolina, with the winner taking on Florida out of the Orange Conference. The Orange Conference also has Clemson and Tennessee, who with the winner taking on USC. We got 3 from the Purple Conference. We talked about East Carolina. LSU will take on the Red Conference in Ohio State, with the winner taking on the defending national champion and Red Conference champion, Texas Tech. Washington and Georgia will also be a red versus purple matchup, with the winner taking on undefeated blue and yellow Pitt. Okay, the Cinderella story, East Carolina doesn't get the win. Michigan, I think, has 2 straight wins against former G5 teams, or typical G5 teams, in the first round. They will move on to face Florida in the second round in the Cotton Bowl. LSU gets a win for the Purple Conference over Ohio State. They will take on Texas Tech in the second round in the Orange Bowl. Washington also gets a win for the Purple Conference. They will take on Pitt in the Fiesta Bowl out of the Blue and Yellow Conference. The Orange Bowl, that's not actually the Orange Bowl, goes to Tennessee. They win by 3. They will take on USC in the Peach Bowl. So we got 2 purple teams through, and 2 orange teams through, 2 blue and yellow teams through, 1 all red and 1 red and yellow team in the second round. Michigan is trying to take the best team in the video as they get a win over Florida by 8. They'll take on LSU, who upset last year's national champion and number 1 seed from this year by 6 in the Orange Bowl. So it's Michigan LSU in the Rose Bowl. Texas Tech is the second straight 1 seed to lose in their first game in the CFB for us. Pitt gets past Washington. They will take on USC, so no upsets in the bottom, 2 upsets at the top, no upsets in the bottom part of our bracket. We've got 2 versus 3 in the Sugar Bowl. USC versus Pitt, 2 undefeated teams looking for 16-0 seasons. Michigan and LSU at the top, both have multiple losses. Michigan makes it back to its second straight national championship game. They will take on USC in Vegas. This is we want to get the hell out of the Big Ten national championship between USC and Michigan after USC wins by 17 over Pitt. So Michigan takes best team in the video with the win here. USC ties it up. Well, USC would be in 3rd place. Michigan would be in 2nd place. Or that Michigan would be in 3rd place. USC would be in 2nd place. And Texas Tech will be in 1st place if USC gets the win here. And the red conference, the all-red conference, is probably still in the lead because the red and yellow lost last year with Iowa State. USC gets the win. 2 straight losses in the national championship game for Michigan. It's looking like the Jim Harbaugh era. They will, USC ties, or is 2nd place to Texas Tech in best team because Texas Tech made it for 2 straight seasons. USC was not in last season. Red and yellow conference is in 2nd place behind the all-red conference because they have only had 2 teams make it the entire time. Well, the red conference has had like 7 at this point. We made the big move from Wyoming to Iowa. People that have been to either of those states tell me, is it an improvement or not going to Iowa? So let's see if Iowa State can make it back next season with us as the DC. And then let's see if we can get our Christmas Bowl in the final season. I'm going to get fired from Iowa State too. We're 3-5. I looked at what the defense is doing, but not great. Okay, LSU, who was a semifinalist last season, is number 1 in the country. Texas Tech is again one of the best teams in the country. It's weird. You don't usually see Texas Tech being one of the best teams throughout the entire sim. They usually fall off after year 1 or 2. But we put them in a much stronger conference in the Big 12, and they have been dominating that conference so far. We've also got 4 other teams from that conference in the top 7, or 3 other teams in the top 7, 4 total. And Louisville's on the outside looking in right now from the playoff, but still doing pretty well. They just beat Ohio State at home by 3. Okay, Pitt, we've got back up in there. These are all teams that we've seen in the playoff. We haven't seen Alabama yet. Haven't seen Alabama yet in the playoff, but all these teams down to Ole Miss. We haven't seen Ole Miss in the playoff either, but we have seen most of these teams in the playoff. Kentucky is one that I actually have never seen in the top 25. They're in the top 25 this time. Oklahoma State's up there. We haven't seen yet. TCU's towards the top of the Purple Conference. Don't have any G5 teams, but really what we're looking at is Oregon here. Can they get into the playoff to get us to Christmas Bowl? There's multiple different teams that they could be playing. They have a non-conference game against Tennessee for some reason, which could end up being a good thing if they win it. It's at home. It's a good thing if they win it because they were undefeated last season and still didn't make the playoff. This should give them the credibility to make it, but it is a late season conference game. Their second non-conference game against the Orange Conference. They need to get that win to be in. They also have probably a conference championship game against Miami. Miami's undefeated right now. So we'll see. We had 2 green teams in the first season. We had 0 last season. Let's see if they can make it in this year. Okay, so it looks like LSU is destined to make it back in this season. Their second straight trip to the CFP. USC is going to be fighting. They're our defending national champion. They're going to be fighting to make their way in. Pitt should be in. Michigan needs a win to get in. Pitt should be in either way. The Green Conference is really looking at that. So it looks like Oregon did lose that game to Tennessee in the non-conference. Who's in the Orange Championship? Okay, so Florida and Auburn. So Tennessee may or may not be in. We'll see. They were number 12 when we last looked at it, and then of course, they got that win against Oregon. So the winner of this game has a good chance to be in, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there's a couple things. Either looking for Michigan to lose and the winner to be in the top 12 and not be jumped. They would be the 6th conference champion. Or looking for Maryland to win this and the winner to be ranked above Maryland to get the 5th. No, they're not going to get it because LSU is probably going to get it. So they need some big upsets. They need Washington and Auburn to win, and maybe BYU to loosen up the conference champion automatic qualifier, or they just need Michigan to lose and Maryland to lose, and they jump into the top 12. Those are the 2 ways to get our green team in so we can maybe get another Christmas Bowl this year. Let's look at the top 25. Because there's a lot of teams that were unaccounted for. So Tennessee did make it in the top 6. They're going to be in after getting that win over Oregon. Georgia was not in the conference championship. Ohio State was not in the conference championship. Duke, who we haven't seen in quite yet, is not in the conference championship. So maybe Miami or Oregon could jump Duke, and in Oregon's case, maybe even TCU to get in. If they win, depending on who wins the conference championship. Keelan Russell wins the Heisman for Alabama. I can't remember where Keelan Russell plays now. I know someone's going to be like, you're a college football fan, you know where Keelan Russell is. I know he's a real player, but I don't know where he plays now. But he definitely doesn't play at Alabama, I don't think. So he wins the Heisman. What are you going to say? I think we make a bowl game. Yeah, we do. We're going to the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. We're going to go buy some heat-seeking missiles. But that's the first bowl game that we've made, and we made it at 6-6. So not a great showing for the teams that we picked. It wasn't going to be because we picked Wyoming, but what can you do? All right, so let's see what this bracket looks like. It looks like Miami probably made it in. Yeah, so Miami did make it in, didn't get the automatic qualifier. Maryland ended up getting the automatic qualifier, beating USC in the red and yellow championship, jumping up to number 10. USC, who was number 10, falls all the way out based on that loss. So Miami gets in, but they're going to have to get some things done for us to get a Christmas game. They have to beat Tennessee, who had beaten Oregon earlier in the season, but Miami also beat Oregon as well. So they have a chance to get Tennessee, but they're on the road in Neyland Stadium, not an easy place to play. Then they're going to go to the Fiesta Bowl and play Penn State if they get that first win. Then they could potentially play Ohio State or Alabama, assuming that LSU doesn't make their way there. If they don't, they'll have to win a semifinal game and hope that either Texas Tech, Maryland, or Georgia makes it to the national championship game. We did have Texas Tech and Miami in our only other Christmas game that we've had so far in the first season in the semifinals. So maybe we get a rematch there in the national championship. The bottom part of the bracket looks like Duke versus Pitt. That's blue versus blue and yellow, with the winner taking on our first national champion, Texas Tech, who I think seals up best team in the video by virtue of USC only making it once. Texas Tech now has made it with a first-round bye all 3 times and won the first national championship. But there's some other teams that have made it all 3 times. Georgia, I believe, has made it all 3 times. They're taking on Maryland, who's there for the first time. Florida will take on the winner of that. I think Florida has made it twice as well. So there's some other teams that have a chance, but I think Texas Tech really is in line for best team in the video, almost regardless of what happens. Okay, we lost the Armed Forces Bowl, but I'm going back to being a head coach. I'm going to coach the Kansas Jayhawks. Jay Sovol is going to the Kansas Jayhawks, baby. Let's go. Upgrade one season of under 500 ball with Iowa State, and we get a head coaching job after getting fired from Wyoming, back in the Power 5 as well with Kansas. Although Kansas in the red and blue conference, who hasn't been very good. So anyway, CFP bracket. So Miami does take care of business in the first round. They win by 24 against Tennessee in the first round. They'll take on Penn State in the second round. However, LSU gets the win over Ohio State, so we need to hope that not only Miami wins, but Alabama wins, so we can potentially get our Christmas game. LSU might be the third straight team to beat a number 1 seed in the first game in the CFP so far. Duke gets the upset over Pitt. They will take on Texas Tech, who is our best team in the video leader. Georgia gets the win over Maryland, who snuck in by virtue of being USC. We get the world's largest cocktail party in the Sugar Bowl at the bottom of the bracket in the 2 versus 7. So Miami and Alabama, we really need to win to get another Christmas matchup. Alabama holds up their end of the bargain, but Miami loses by 15 to Penn State. So it's Penn State, Alabama in the Orange Bowl. Duke and Georgia both get the upsets in the bottom. So last year it was the bottom that had the favorites win, top that had the upsets. This time it's the top that has the upsets. The bottom has the top that has the favorite wins. The bottom that has the upsets. Duke beats Texas Tech by 3. Texas Tech has now made it to 3. Been into had a first round bye in 3 college football playoffs, but also lost in 2 straight college football playoffs without a win. So I don't know if they are the best team, but I don't know that any of these other teams have done anything that would give them the best team with a win. So I think Texas Tech still gets the best team in the video. Georgia gets the win over Florida. Duke gets the win over Texas Tech. So it's a Cotton Bowl between Duke and Georgia. Orange Bowl between Alabama and Penn State. Penn State and Georgia for the national championship. 2 one-score games in the semifinal. Penn State by 6, Georgia by 7. Who is going to pull it off in the Caesars Superdome? Georgia, who has not won in a couple videos for us, gets the final national championship of the video, beating Penn State by 6. That is the Christmas special, the color realignment special. We had Texas Tech, USC, and Georgia. A red team wins from each of the 3 seasons. 2 from the all-red conference, 1 from the red and yellow. So the all-red conference gets best conference in the video. And we'll say Texas Tech gets the best team in the video. I think pretty clearly Texas Tech gets the best team in the video, even though they didn't really run away with it in the end. So it's all red this Christmas. Thanks for watching the video. Merry Christmas to you if you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, well, I celebrate, so still Merry Christmas to you. We'll see you on the 26th.